वही है घर जहाँ डर हो ना फिकर, मिट्टी की जहाँ आए खुशबू, जहाँ ख्वाब हो फलक पर और सांसों में सबर, जहाँ खुद से हो तू रूबरू। जो देखे कभी सोचे तो जान ले, है कितना खुश किस्मत तू। Let's celebrate the joy of life. Oh, we're born from the land. Oh, you and I and all of life. Oh, we're born from the land. Yeah. Let's celebrate the joy of life. Oh, we're born from the land. And all of life, oh, we're born from the land, yeah. बंदे जरा तू रुक, मिलता यहीं सब कुछ है पेड़ों की छाँव में हर सुख।
For joining us for yet another episode of Right Circle, which is presented by Sri Cements, is done in association with Prabhaketan Foundation, Essas Women, Spagia Foundation and Syahi, and also ITC Rajputana. We have with us a very, very celebrated person and someone whom I look up to with a lot of respect because he's a deep, sensitive, thinking individual. But you'll say in your heads, but then every artist is, but no, he's different. So I'm presenting to you Mansoor Khan, who has directed a few successful films, but I'd rather concentrate on his work as someone who really cares for how we live, what we do. Are we thinking enough? Are we thinking in the right direction? And his present pursuit is critiquing how a single human culture behind the convergent global crisis often erroneously blames human beings as such. So Mansoor is also somebody who has written this absolutely, I would say, intense fiction called One, the Story of the Ultimate Myth, which Syahi is extremely, extremely proud to represent. And it's just been published recently. It's very difficult to get him to, come and travel, so I'm very glad that all of you are here. He also runs an organic farm called Acres Wild, and one of his favorite pastimes is making cheese. And Acres Wild is based in Kunur. Over to Dr. Tabina Anjum, who is a senior journalist for over a decade in print and multimedia journalism. She reports on all that really matters. So it's gender, human rights, migrant rights. I don't know if politics really matters, but and she also writes for Outlook, has contributed to Quint. There's a long, long list here, guys. She's very senior. But the most important part is that her debut non-fiction book, Rajasthan, Politics and Power Struggles in India's Largest State, is forthcoming in the spring of 2024. I'm told she's a very passionate photographer, but with that, I'm going to invite both of you on stage. You guys know the house rules. Please keep your phones on silent. If you don't know how to do that, ask your neighbor to help you out right now. But can I have you both on stage? Jaipur, can we do the next one, please? Thank you. And Mansoor, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure being here and moderating this session. Thank you, Meeta. Me and Mansoor connected on phone a few days ago, and I told him that, I'm a 90s kid and I'm your fan. Kayamat se Kayamat tak and Jochita Vai Sikandar. But he was like, let's talk about books. So our conversation just shifted, from 90s to 2023, where we are. So there were relevant stuff we spoke on environment, on global warming, on economic curve. So I'll talk very little and let him talk more because you've all come to listen to him. I mean, back in 80s, you shared your imagination, with stories like Qayamat se Qayamat tak, Jo jeeta wahi Sikandar, and later Akele Hum Akele Tum. And now you're an author. But what remains constant is he being a storyteller. Whether it's his films, it's his books. I read this one. It's a very small, short fiction. And there's a lot of visual imagery which we'll later talk about. But to begin with, let's ask him how did you think of this topic, and how did the journey begin?
Thanks, Davina, and thanks all of you. I hope you don't regret coming here after you hear me talk. But since all of you are going to get the book, I will just give you a kind of a teaser, and then she'll ask all the interesting questions. Basically, I was a hardcore engineer, science, calculus, physics, I wanted to go abroad and I studied and everything, and I came back. And I had a change of heart. I suddenly realized that I'm not a city person. So when I came back, when I say came back, I dropped out. I'm a professional dropout. I dropped out of IIT, then Cornell, then MIT, then Bollywood, and God knows what else. So my father was most concerned, and that made me very guilty, and I made films because I was feeling guilty, not because I wanted to make them. But yes, I do like telling stories. And I wanted to live on this land just outside Bombay. You all must have heard of Alibag. Yeah. And Mandwa is, and I was into sailing. So what can be better, Classic visual, lying on the beach with your yacht in front, and I haven't done any work. I haven't done any money. So I dared dream of all that, which made it even more, made me even more guilty. But that land was my dream land. And the government was going to acquire it for an international airport. And that is what triggered the whole questioning. Because I was a rich, spoiled kid, got silver and gold spoon in my mouth. How dare somebody take something from me? We don't realize, and probably all of you also. And that triggered this whole journey of, what do you mean by land acquisition? What do you mean by development? What do you mean by social justice? What do you mean by displacement? What do you mean by environment? I had no clue. I didn't even know that chemicals are bad. Or I didn't stop just at that, because then it became much more a quest of understanding what is all this stuff that I have never questioned. So saving the land was one thing, and that took me into much more tricky zones. And I eventually read some books which made me question what we call modern science. Now this is sacrilege. I know many of you are thinking of getting up and going, but so this book of mine is a culmination of that journey, which questioned. Can I just go to the next one? So I'm not an environmentalist, and I disagree with environmentalists because they talk only down one sliver. They're not holistic thinkers, So whether you talk about environment or forests or oceans or rivers or soil, or you're only talking in one silo. You're not talking about the root cause. So I want to ask you one thing. I'm not a moralist, okay? I'm not saying you guys are bad and good because I wrote this book. I want to ask you, who do you think is destroying the planet?
Humans.
No dinner for all these guys, huh? Totally wrong. Try again.
Rich people.
No breakfast also.
Current developmental paradigm.
So these are the patches that we pull out. Actually, it is one culture of humans. Human as a species, there are 5,000 cultures. And there's only one culture called civilization. That is, are the Adivasis spinning out plastic? Have they designed fossil fuels? Did they make the atom bomb? Do they? Then how come you guys are telling the biggest lie? I'm sure you're not liars. This is called cultural conditioning. Just like the cultural conditioning that happens in certain cultures where women think they are inferior. And men automatically think, oh, of course, I mean, for heaven's sake. Yeah. So that goes so deep, but this is much deeper. It's 10,000 years old. So when you walk out today, unless you hold on to it and question it, every day you'll have to unpeel one layer. And you say, my God, we couldn't have been telling a bigger lie. And that is why we are not finding an answer. 40 years of environmental movement, what happened? Save water, grow the trees. So it's something else. So I will not get into that. I just want this to be a teaser. My book is, the intention of the book was a thought within a plot. The thought is what I wanted to convey, and this is the thought. But I won't tell you any more because I explain it much more, and I will leave that to you. And luckily the fiction story is also quite interesting.
So the book is, it's a unique form of storytelling where he's connecting the dots. He's talking about 4 elements of environment. And we could also, after reading the book and after knowing more about him, you can see, you can somewhere see there's a lot of his own life's reflection in the book. For example, one was, when you read, after reading your book, while reading your book suddenly reminded me of Narmada Bachao Andolan by Medha Patkar. And then I later got to know that you yourself were, you have been an activist. So so can you tell us more about it?
Exactly. So in that journey of saving my land, I became aware of these things. So I bought a video camera. I would go and interview villagers, fishermen, farmers. You see, we talk about development so casually. Like, हमको पानी कैसे मिलेगा? तो किसका घर उजड़ता है, किसका घर ड्राउन होता है, किसकी जमीन जाती है, and that's called development. And we have the very greater common good. It's not greater common good. There are 50 million people who, since independence, that have been affected by it. So anyway, so that made me question. A fisherman can't just get up and you can tell an IT guy, I have a job for you in Mysore. He can go. Mysore is like Bangalore, slightly different. But you can't tell a fisherman because his whole ecosystem is different. You say, नहीं हम तो वहाँ रहेगा ना पहाड़ पे टीले पे रहेगा और टीले पे क्या करेगा? See how easily we take it. And we only talk about displacement, not rehabilitation. Rehabilitation means you have to give the whole social ecosystem. Can you live without your friends, without your family? You know what I mean? So it was social, it was ethical, those are the normal things. But I didn't get stuck in that.
But Mansoor, these 2 characters and there are 2 protagonists in the book. I'll not tell you more because all of you will be reading this book. So 2 protagonists, for example, this Sonal, the main protagonist. So she is an activist and, so somehow these 2 fictional characters, are they somewhere, are these 2 real life characters also?
They are me. Both of them are me. One was the one that wanted to understand how the whole universe worked. And the other was a bleeding heart, environmentalist, social activist,
Engineer.
So I've lived both those and walked both those paths at different points of time. And basically, when I got involved in social issues and all that, it was so frustrating and enraging. And I used to argue with my friends and try to convince them. And 23 years back, if anybody told you that we should not build a dam, but dams are the temples of modern India. Dams are the but the whole thing has changed. Amir asked me, I was going to make a film in 2000. He said, what's your story? I said, it's about questioning a large dam. He said, but what's wrong with dams? And now he's got Pani Foundation. So the world has changed, but too slow. You see what's happening in Uttarakhand. You see what's happening. So that is the environmental part. So I got sensitized because I was just drawn into it.
So you told me over phone that your inner journey to complete this book, it took you 20 good years. 20 long years, one should say. So how did when did you exactly started writing this? The idea stemmed maybe 20 years ago, and was it like it kept evolving? So what was the writing process, the thought process?
So in 2000, just as I said, I used to get so frustrated. Actually, I was writing this as a non-fiction book because I wanted to say what I wanted to say. And I really felt that fiction would come in the way. Because then you get so into the characters that you forget what the topic was. If my characters are too tasty and the situations are too interesting, then you say, does the boy meet the girl? And what happens to her mother? And so you're more into the human relationships than the thing. But that day I came home and I have a very sharp sense of guilt. If I argue with somebody and use some strong words, then I won't sleep at night. So that night I said, either I am mad or all of you are mad. Both of us cannot be या तो मैं पागल. तो वहाँ से ये दो characters आए to answer your question. And I wrote the first 11 scenes just like that, sitting one morning. Without, this sounds like fiction. This sounds like, जैसे आपको people who say...
I should stop you. When he said that, he didn't say I wrote 11 chapters, 11 pages. He said I wrote 11 scenes. So, there's a filmmaker right here. And when you read his book, friends, you'll be... There is actually, the book opens... Can I just talk a little about your book? So the book opens with a park. There's a park, there is a bench. There are two strangers who are meeting, in the park. They see each other every day, but they don't talk. And one fine day, their paths cross. And then there is a story about companionship. There's a story, how these two, go on talking. And then there is a book within a book, story within a story. So he's somehow connected dots via these two protagonists. So tell us one more thing. Like when you were writing the book, you have chosen your some part of your books is also in italics. One can see the handwritten, italic font, and also small diagrams that one doesn't miss looking at. It's like small scribbled notes. So what made you do that?
Yeah, so that happens in the segments because it's a book within a book. So Abhay, the male protagonist, he has written a book which he shares with this girl. So whenever the book section, only 3 times they appear in the thing, that's where I go into handwritten font, and I tried to make it look like a guy would be scribbling, but I made it a little more colourful because I think colours bring out the thing, the contrast between the good and the bad. So it's color coded that way. So it was quite a task to fit. See, a story has its own requirements. You can't just say, okay, I'll stop on this chapter and insert the non-fiction part. And I don't know, luck was on my side. It just fit in exactly correctly. Where each of those things should be spoken, it comes there. And I noticed one thing about the way I write for a book is that I come up with a key visual. So my earlier book, which is free on my site, you can download it. I have one visual which is on the cover. And that visual tells you the whole story. I mean the whole thought. And so similarly for this, what Tamina was addressing the diagram, that key diagram, it took me 15 years to evolve. Because I was just thinking, how do I have got 10,000 different points I'm trying to make? How do I put them in a flow? And how do I reduce it just to 5 points? And that's my key visual.
One question for you, and I'm sure this question would be there in the minds of so many audience sitting here. Why did you thought of writing a book instead of, making a film, this one? Because it's such a visually rich film, book, and, and are you by any chance, wanting to convert it into a transfer or convert it into a film somehow, or, because lots of OTT platforms right now, maybe.
Yeah.
Because your last film, I think, was Josh. It was in 2000. It's been 2 decades now.
See, everybody jumps to the conclusion A, that I'm a filmmaker, so I should make a film. But it depends on the subject. This is a paradigm shifting subject. Okay? So film is good for, it's a very powerful medium. But each medium is powerful. Speaking is powerful. Theatre is powerful in its own way. Lights, curtains, smoke, audio. Then you come to slides, then you come to puppets, then you come to whatever. I mean, different mediums. Film is very powerful, but it's very powerful for some things like love, hate, violence, humor, titillation, all those things, propaganda. But I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's much more difficult. Once you read this, you'll realize, would it translate on screen? So I had to first test myself in a book. And then I have now converted this into a screenplay.
Okay.
So yes.
So we'll be seeing are you planning to?
Yeah, I'm not planning. I don't want to start GoFundMe. So I'm waiting for, Amir has loved the book. And see what happens is the film is outside my scope. It costs 100 crores. मेरे पास नहीं है. And nor do I have the capacity to get into all the financing. So and he really wants to do it, if he manages to agree with me. Right now we have a slight difference of opinion on the way I am treating the screenplay. Then yes. But I would not say I'm planning, because I can't do it without him. So that's that.
One can also find
Let's just sell the book first, like millions of copies.
Yeah.
On the blurb, a gem of a book which first challenged my mind and then blew it apart. That's Amir Khan for the book.
Yeah, and I think each thing has its own destiny. So, of course we are trying to promote it. Meeta is doing a fabulous
Tell me
job.
something, one could see in the film, you as a filmmaker, as an activist, you also have, you have been an IITian, and there's a lot of this butterfly effect, chaos theory, black swan events, is that Mansoor Khan IITian writing about?
Well, obviously. But I'm challenging it now. I'm not writing it as a plus, I'm writing it as I'm questioning it.
Yeah.
You see? So when you do read that part, I do quote these things, but I'm saying that's because you are just trying to justify what you could not justify about reality. The unknownness of reality. You're not willing to say, oh, it's unknown to us. Scientists are very arrogant people. Say, nothing is unknown to us. And why did COVID happen? Why did that storm So we have made a complex, what shall I say, thing called butterfly effect. That sounds wonderful. Okay, there could be a butterfly in the Amazon river fluttering its wings. Because of that, it's called, and that's chaos theory, that, you know, it affected this, it affected that, because it's a complex system. And it affected that, this, and it resulted in a tornado in Philippines. See, now this is like saying, so I'll ask, which butterfly? You don't know. It's a construct. You get what I mean? So, justifying the intrinsically unknowable, that is what I'm questioning. If you were so good, why couldn't you predict COVID? Do you know civilization has a maximum diseases? Have you ever thought of that? I don't think there's a Hinduja hospital on Sentinelese Island. And they've lived for 60,000 years. So my book is a culture critique. And civilization is a viral culture. We might not like it. You say, oh, but we do art, literature, poetry, music, my God, higher thought, films. Hey, reality doesn't care about that. That's what you think. That's what Mughals were thinking. That's what all the dynasties, and they have gone to dust. Civilization is the most vulnerable culture because it works against reality.
Chauvinist, you told me.
Chauvinist, aggressive, assertive, deluded, you know, and there is a whole set of people. I'm not the only guy. I've learned from these people, and I'm so glad that two of my idols of thought actually read my book and they loved it and they gave it. That was, for me, that was it. So, this is the thing. So, I like to sound like, oh, how much physics I know. I mention it to say what nonsense is this? What do you mean by chaos theory? Uncertainty principle. What do you mean? You know, there was a mathematician, Gödel, in 1950 or somewhere around then. He wrote this theorem called the incompleteness theorem. And that theorem, in effect, disproves all of mathematics. Can you believe it? So you've used a diamond to cut a diamond. People say you're using logic to demolish logic. Yes, logic is not absolute.
The book is a quick read. I mean, it's a very thin book, quick read, gripping. You don't lose interest and you can finish it, you know, once you have started and you would want to finish it as soon as possible and you end up doing it. Was it like you never wanted to elaborate it? Or you always wanted to keep it a short novel?
No, you see, I think everything, any premise or any, has its own, it determines its own number of words or whatever, or number of scenes, you know. So I was just going where it went. You see what I mean? And if I would have extended it even a little bit more, that would have been flat. Because I'm just trying to show that I can describe how wonderful the afternoon was and how the autumn leaves, and I don't need all that. So in fact, John Zerzan is a fabulous, fabulous philosopher. He said Mansoor uses the terse mode of narration. And I value the succinct. And he's achieved that. He was the only guy who noticed that I had used a terse mode intentionally. My other writer friends were thinking that I don't know English too well, or I can't construct long sentences, or something like that. I said, no, I've chosen this as a staccato kind of a meter of writing.
You told me once, when we were having chat an hour ago, you told me that, you know, even films happen like this. You never planned to make a film and just, you know, it was somewhere, you know, in your mind, but one fine day. You were never, you know, you wanted to do it. So this book also, like, you know, it took you 20 years, so there's some similarity.
I wanted.
Okay.
It's just that I was, it's a much is the mother of is the mother of topics.
Yeah.
You know, my first book is about economics and energy.
Yes.
बहुत पतला दायरा है उसका, but it's very interesting to read. Okay, but this one is sweeping across all disciplines, all thoughts, you know, but it doesn't lose its center. The center is there. So I'm not just elaborating on 200 things. And why is it called one? By the way, I want to ask you one thing. See, one thing. What is the difference between ONE1 and the digit 1? No, this is not helping.
I think this one is oneness and that is a singular.
But you use it interchangeably.
We do it.
I had one sandwich. One is the relationship. One is reality, it's totality. Everything that you can imagine, you cannot imagine. What you know, what you don't know, what you'll never know, that is one. Advait. Why did civilization need to write Advait? No Adivasi wrote it. Only a chore needs to write a book on honesty.
Yeah. Right. Oneness was going away.
Because now you sit intellectually and say, oh God, actually everything is one and this and that. And what do you do with that? Nothing. Whereas in this book, of course, I'm lucky I'm born in a later era, the impact of Dvait thinking. Dvait means dualistic. There is no second. Advait means that there is no second, there is no other, because there is no boundary. आप मुझे बता दीजिए एक boundary. So we are a boundary culture. You get what I mean? So these are the kind of things that are covered in this book.
Like here, this is a short novel and lots of imagery, and then it's in flashbacks also. Like you're talking about Sonal now, you're talking about Abhay now, and Abhay then, Sonal then, their lives then, and their lives now. I mean, this writing style, you wanted to keep it like this, or?
Yeah, I had realized that I would break up time.
Okay.
For sure. You know, because I told you I wrote the first 11 scenes or chapters spontaneously.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who Abhay is. Sonal I knew. Sonal is a
Activist.
river activist,
Yeah.
yes, I knew that. Abhay I could have placed anywhere. I could have made him a nuclear physicist, I could have made him
You made him an engineer.
extreme science guy. That was the basic idea. He's an extreme science guy. But in this, I finally, after 15 years, I zeroed on GMO food. And when you read the book, you'll realize how it all ties up. Now, it won't make sense to you now. But what I meant is I wrote those scenes, the 11 scenes, and they didn't change. For 20 years, those scenes are exactly the same. Because they were spontaneous. So then, this back and forth.
Back and forth.
I knew I would, because I'm starting today with two characters who are mentally unstable. Who are they? Where did they come from? What is he doing? So obviously there was a past. So then I'm knitting at what point I bring in which past and what.
You finished the book during COVID somewhere, and when
Thanks to COVID, yeah.
Thanks to COVID, and when we get to know more of Sonal, you know, she's suffering from depression. She has mental health issues. She's schizophrenic. I mean, did COVID also somehow,
No.
you know?
First of all, I went through depression. I was Sonal. I went through extreme depression, paranoia. I mean, extreme. I've been through a lot of therapy. But my book is not about mental health. The reason I've chosen the characters is for a fictional reason. I'm not elaborating on that. I'm not advocating how to deal with mental health. So please don't read that into it.
Okay.
Because
But one cannot miss out on that because it's very much
Well,
the
you're right,
character is
you're
the
right.
protagonist,
You're
and you know,
absolutely right, because just look at it. In Bombay today, 30% people are depressed and they don't even know it. My sister is an analyst. You know? Suddenly, analyst, psychology, psychoanalysis, this thing, therapy, da 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 da. 25% of my family is in depression. And everybody, you know, like used to have a dentist, so somebody, look, you have a family doctor. So you got a, you know.
I think what's beautiful about the book is also that, you know, it talks about environment, it talks about all of that, but the strong, again, I should say, the storytelling, you know, thing that you have used in the book. I mean, you've connected the dots and told story through these two characters. There's a story within a story, there is a book within a book, so there's not a, you know, moment of dullness while you finish the book, once you finish the book. Lot of friends here who are in the audience, because some are aspiring writers, some are writers. They wanted to know that what is your, you know, when do you write actually? You know, do you write in the times of computers and iPads? You still write in the notebook, or you know?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. My first book actually evolved through presentations. So I did about 50 talks. So I did not think I'll write it like this. And in that it evolved, the structure evolved in those talks. And I kept polishing it a little bit. Then I realized, oh, I'm using this expression called money onion. You know? So we've made an onion with money. So there's money. Then you say this money should earn interest. Second thing, this should compound. This should go on forever. And that doesn't happen, you make another one. No gold standard. Fractional reserve banking. You can always come up with a concept, a ring. It's not real. Tata shares, Tata said, I shouldn't say anybody can sue anybody these days. You know, I'm talking about my cousin Tata. He has made only 7% more cakes. I mean, he's got a public limited company. Why they take their trucks? But the shares go up 100%. आपने बनाया 7% real product है, तो इसका क्या मतलब है? This is virtual. So then you will see why this book and that book are actually connected. That is a sliver. I've taken one slice of it. You know, but all that will make sense. Concept versus reality. My subject is reality. So you'll say, oh Mansoor, your reality is different. One lady told me, your reality is different from my reality because I don't have money and you have money. And I said, no, I'm not talking about my reality versus your reality. I'm talking about the absolute reality. The totality, you know. So, money is a concept. How many times have you eaten a 500 rupee note? Maybe you desperately tried to eat them when they were... Yeah. I mean, I would... little mustard on it. So money you don't eat. This is 10 rupees. This is bread. Which do you eat? This. Then what is this? This is a representation of value. And civilization is a representational culture. We are a symbolic culture. We think in symbols. Chair, desk, this, tree, leaf. We objectify it. That's the boundary. This is a leaf. This is Mansoor. Does Mansoor extend up to where? Up to my skin? Or the air around me that is warmed by me and smells, not smells, aroma is distinctly me? Or to the distance to which you can see me? Aren't you getting influenced by me right now? So does Mansoor extend up to there? And what about my gravitational field which goes on? So Mansoor is not here. So we have reduced reality. A number is a reduction of reality. A name is a reduction of reality. And reality does not like to be reduced.
So before we open up to the audience, I mean, The book again, like you said, it has Mansoor Khan as an author, as a filmmaker, an activist, an IITian, and a quick read and congratulations for the book once again. And I think we can now,
Asked this question ever since you said it. You talked about civilization being deluded.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so we are deluded, just like this. We really believe that 10 rupees is value. I can give you 2 trillion on the moon, you can't give me a cup of tea. Isn't that delusion? See what I mean?
Yeah.
We say 2 cats. My good friend Elon Musk, he came to meet me. And he said, Mansoor, I've been hearing you saying some very bad things about maths and this and that. I said, no, Elon, come on. He said, I'll buy you a drink. Okay. He said, you're saying there is no such thing as 2. I said, yeah, Elon, that's what I'm saying. So he said, okay, hold my beer. He ran out of the pub and brought a cat. And he put the cat on the table. He said, Mansoor, hold the cat. 1 cat. I said, yeah, okay. Then he ran out again and got another cat. Then he put it here. You see, that's 2 cats. So I said, no, this one is white and this is black. He said, Mansoor, you don't understand. There is a set called black cats and there is a set called white cats. So I said, Elon, that means in each set there is only one. He said, yeah, that's right. He ran again, caught another cat which scratched him a lot, and he put him next to the black cat and said, see, now we have 2 black cats. I said, no, this one is fat and this one is thin. He said, no, so you don't understand. There is a set called fat black cats and thin black cats. You see what I'm trying to say? When Advait says there is no 2, we take it as an esoteric truth. It's not esoteric. It's fundamental. It's common sense. My dog knows it. The frogs know it. When people use the word spiritual, almost every word is bastardized these days, Green. What do you mean by green here? You're wearing green. That means you must be an environmentalist. So, spiritual is only, to me, it means non-symbolic. When you think without symbols, which is what my dog does, the cat does, the worm does, the fly does, the fish does. Does a bird know Bernoulli's principle? Flight principles, gravity? How does it fly? And without polluting the whole planet. Does a fish know Boyle's law? Buoyancy principles? Viscosity? So we say, no, we are advanced. First of all, so all these progress. Is your heart progressing? Is it pumping more blood every day? The notion of progress is ridiculous. Because it comes from quantity. And the moment you say there is no 2, there is no quantity. There is no such thing as quantity. So it's not an esoteric thing or a mystical thing or a spiritual thing or a Baba thing. It is an age-old truth which we've forgotten. With agriculture came all this.
Mansoorji, your discussion, and I'm glad that Tarveena could really bring out those whole contradictions, conflicts, dilemmas.
No, we discussed it and I said I'll go your way. Yeah.
So they came, the whole discourse was full of these contradictions and conflicts. On the one side, the IITian, a scientist and a philosopher who's talking about the abstract, the absolute, And even I agree with you that this civilization has taken much more from us than given us something. I feel that this human development is contraindicative of cultural things, and this material growth is not very, very helpful to us. Are you suggesting us to go back from this civilization? Are you giving us some, because it is irreversible, we are already into it. We have chosen this path, and these contradictions are inbuilt in the civilization which we have chosen.
Reality does not negotiate. So what I was saying earlier is that we are in denial. Although in small ways they are beginning, oh, organic is good. Oh, small is beautiful. Oh, we must conserve. These are all basically pointing to the same thing, but you're not accepting the core. So I'm not saying I'm not a fortune teller, and nor am I a prescription giver. If you only do these three things, then everything will be all right. No, I'm a reality check guy. I am telling you this is the view from the window. How it unfolds, is it true? Absorb it. Think about it. Digest it. Mull it in your mind. Talk to others. And the change will, whichever way, will be correct. But if we go with the same paradigm, oh, energy shortage, put more solar panels, put more this in. That's what we've been doing. And that's what people call hope. You're just dragging yourself in the with the
I
current.
think this book will give you new terms. One is one culture. That one culture wasn't only new term for Sonal in the book, and for me it was one culture. And one more thing, like we hold ourselves not responsible, for destroying the environment. After reading this book, you'll be, okay, no, we're not very much responsible, So you'll be like,
Right.
I felt like that, so let them, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway. So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that there is no way. I'm just saying it's not prescriptive. If you accept reality, understand it, tune in with it, and don't rely, we can, I love this word. अच्छा ये हो गया केमिकल से हम लोग रिसर्च करेंगे रिसर्च करेंगे मतलब क्यों गुम गया है we are always in a mode of research because we lost it a long time back. That's why we'll do research. So when you see those 5 steps of mind, perception, first you perceive reality through your senses, then you understand it. It's hard. That's understanding. Understanding is science. Whereas we think science is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Sin theta, cos theta, the root of 2 divided by. Understanding is, a frog is an understanding, a frog is a science, it's an intuitive science. A mother understands the child, it's an intuitive. No, whatever kids doctors are called, what are they called?
Pediatrician.
Pediatricians, yeah. I, because of pedophiles, I don't like to say it. So I'm saying, mothers have lost confidence. नहीं यार डॉक्टर ने ये बोला है you have no confidence in your instinct, your intuition. The guys who live in the forest, they know where the water is. We call it sixth sense. It was always there. We lost it. तो मेरा critique ना guys खुल के it's called civilization critique. It's anti-Sith. It's also called a gentle word called primitivism. Because primitive is a bad word for us. How primitive you are. अच्छा? तो फिर आप organic क्यों कर रहे हैं? So, we lost it 10,000 years ago. The whole world was one culture because they always perceived. There were lakhs of cultures. Now you know only 5,000 of them, and which are 5% of the total population. What a tragedy. We are like a cancer cell. And I must end on this. There are so many cells in your body. Skin cells, blood cells, nerve cells, bone cells, brain cells. And they all follow the laws of biology honestly and diligently. Finite life, stay in one place, take only limited resource, die. One cell gets up and says, hey, primitive cells here. Adivasi Sale. I'm going to die. What do you call that? Exactly. That's the tumor cell. He says, I'm so smart. I hate this word smart. Smart means chatur, chalak, cunning. Smart is not wise. Just see how often we use smart. Yeah, you say over smart. You never say over wise. So there's something intrinsically bad about smart. Acha, you are being too smart, huh? So, but this cell is over smart. It says, I give birth to 2 cells, and my 2 wonderful kids give birth to 2 each, which is 4, and those 4 give birth to 2 each, which is 8, which is 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, and that is an exponential curve. And what does our economy follow?
The same pattern.
An extent, that's my first rule. So we have all the behavior, this culture, not humans. No Adivasi has done exponential growth. No Adivasi looks at fixed deposits and compounding interest and all that. We are a viral culture. So it's just understanding and recognizing it. There's no blame in this. I'm not saying, oh, this guy is responsible for it. Oh, Newton was responsible. No. Maybe this is honing. जो हो रहा है वो हो रहा है, लेकिन हम कुछ समझ तो सकते हैं, फिर हम गलत solution नहीं करेंगे ना. Then we won't say, oh, all we need to do is widen the roads. Have you noticed one thing? The wider the roads you make, how fast they fill up? That is exponential growth.
Mansoor,
Yes.
a small caveat to my question first. I'm sorry, I'm an engineer who went abroad for his MS, and to make things worse, I became a civil servant, and to make it hopeless, presently I'm Joint Secretary to the Chief Minister and talk about development. I'm sure you're going to prescribe me no dinner, no breakfast and no lunch. But before that, a small question. You said that you wrote the first 11 scenes. So there's a saying, a picture speaks 1,000 words. Do you think as a writer, visualizing things makes it much more easier to write in a more holistic manner and more realistic manner rather than not visualizing it? And secondly, do you think that as a solution to the civilization that you are criticizing, there could be some sort of unified theory, maybe using some philosophy as a solution to this?
Yeah, that's the best way to fool yourself. I hate the word philosophy. Philosophy means phil is love, Sophie is knowledge. Love for knowledge. And that's how crazy we are. That we think more knowledge is always good. Now, how much knowledge should I have about what's going on in your head right now? That you actually want to throw a hard object at me. How much should I know what's going on in her mind? How much should I know? First of all, that's not even knowing. It is symbolic knowing. Does a frog know what's happening in the Arctic? So the notion of more knowledge, they are thirsty for knowledge. Mansoor, humans, for say, humans बोल दे तो मुझे बहुत stop. No, even civilization. You know, we are curious by nature. I say, yeah, curiosity killed the cat. Why do you have an expression like that? You are not supposed. What do you mean curious? And when you fulfill your curiosity, how do you use it? You use it in a manner where you don't know what the effects of it will be. Why are you cursing plastics today? You wrote pop songs for it. Young, nice-looking girls were dancing to it and, celebrating plastic. What happened suddenly? Fossil fuels, social media, anything. So there is no such thing as a compromise. अगर आपका perception 1 नहीं है और boundary perception है, तो आपकी science boundary science होगी, जो कि incomplete होगी. और जो one science है, जो ये सारे 500 million जानवर use कर रहे हैं और वो holistic है, adequate है, and is just enough. If you have an incomplete science, the third step is application of understanding. You see, after I've understood this, I'll say, I can apply, I can put this on this. That is technology. Technology does not mean this phone. A frog has technology. A spider has a technology. A web is a technology of a spider. Technology is application of understanding. So your technology will be holistic. It will be symbiotic. Whereas if you come down the boundary way, like civilization, your whichever it be, whether it be a fridge or a microwave or a this or a carpet or whichever technology, it is intrinsically damaging. You say, what harm is this carpet doing? Well, because you're not going deep enough. Go into the economics of it. Go into the resource. Go into the marketing of it. Go into the Then you say, oh my God, there's no such thing as harmless boundary science and boundary technology. तो आप fourth step पे आते हैं, which is outcome. Meaning now what will happen? Outcome is clear in front of you. The world is falling apart. So then we come to the fifth step, which is where all of us are, but is response. Okay, outcome is bad. So what should I do? These are the same 5 steps for a frog, for a snake, for a marriage. A man goes to a marriage counselor. He says, my wife, I love her so much, she's so beautiful, but she hates me. She wants to leave me, and she also throws things at me. So the counselor says, how do you perceive women? He says, women are intrinsically weak. And that's why you have to look after them and take care of them. And therefore they don't understand logic. So never try to reason with. So I understood that. So this is his science. You get it? Your perception is that women are incomplete, inferior by nature. तो आपकी साइंस क्या होगी? वो उस पर बेस्ड होगी कि कभी प्रॉपर्टी नहीं देना और ये और बुरके में रखना और 2 भाइयों को साथ भेजना. And they don't trust them ever. Most untrustworthy. Then what is your application? Third step, because I want the wife, she's beautiful and she's useful for some other things. So my application will be sweet words, 100 roses, diamond ring, darling honey, sugar, bunny, this, that. That's the application. I have not done any of this with my wife. I'll give you her number, you can call and check with her. You don't need to do the same application. So what is the state of the marriage for this guy, this poor chap? It's falling apart. So the counselor says, Mansoor, your problem is that you perceived her wrong. So go back to step 1 and change your perception. And I get up from that counsel room because the counselor is a woman. You get what I mean? So we are doing the same thing. Oh, we are in a mess, same thing, response, what? Groceries, this thing, no plastic. We are jumping to research, same science. You are not going back and changing your perception of reality. You are still going, how much science, how many trillion books do we have? And still we can't, and we are saying, no, we'll go to Mars. जहाँ पे एक चीज ठीक नहीं है, well, are we that? I don't know what word to use for it. Okay, you are trusting. By the way, Mars is very close. Huh? In case you guys thought, just go straight from here to the moon and turn right. Mars is 1,000 times further than the Earth is 2,000 times. कितने लोग अरे हम लोग तो मार्च जा रहे हैं. Yeah, I booked a ticket and that thing they put on the car, you can put your name and all that. All the symbolic nonsense is happening. This is called techno fantasy. Chalo guys, I think.
One last question, friends.
Well, you have talked about environment, you have talked about civilization, and you have expressed that we should be equal to the animals and the plants. Normal, natural, nature. But I want to ask you, on one side you said the ethnic races, they have not changed at all. I agree with you, 100%.
The what?
Ethnic races.
Oh, ethnic races.
Yes, they have not changed. But we are a little different than the animals. आपने अभी कहा कि चिड़िया जो है वो अपने आप उड़ जाती है, परिंदों को दी नहीं जाती तालीम उड़ानों की, वो खुद ब खुद ढूंढ लेते हैं रास्ता आसमानों का. But we cannot. For moon also we had to dig out.
We were not meant to.
No, we were not.
Yes. If 6 could fly,
Yes, similarly, On one side, burgeoning population, urbanization, industrialization. We have to progress on one side. Then how can we live like ethnic races? I appreciate them because they have their own recipes. They use plants, they live with nature, and they admire nature and they protect nature. But it is very difficult for us, I think. Secondly, you have written the book. I feel, being an IITian or a scientist, of course, you have taken up the environment around you. Or because most of the time writers write on imagination also. I do not know, once I read the book then I'll come to know, but I feel that you have a lot of experience. That is why you have used the theories of physics also. So I'm actually quite confused because I would also love to live with the nature. I would not like to change. That is a better life for all of us. But we cannot progress. On one side we have to progress. On the other side, we cannot be like ethnic races. I am always confused about this. Environment is very important. We are ruining the environment, I agree with you. But what to do? We have to use the car. And pollution will be there. We are using air conditioners and pollution will be there. Because we cannot live all the time like the villagers live. I would really like to have answer for this because I'm myself, a lot of confusion I have about this. And the environment we are ruining every day. We all know it. But we cannot do anything. We can't help it if we have to progress. If we have to progress, then we have to make industries. Very important, I feel.
The word progress, there's a book called The Myth of Progress. Kindly read that.
Yes, progress.
Progress is a myth. Your heart is not progressing.
See what we are
Can we
earning.
keep the question short and speak?
Okay.
Thank you.
So
we are
progress
earning
is an
money.
industrial word, like development, efficiency, progress,
You are an
productivity. These are all quantitative industrial words.
How about
Ecological, in ecology, these words are irrelevant. In fact, it's sacrosanct sin.
Cynical.
Yes, not cynical, it's contradictory. In ecology, these principles don't work. That's why a cancer cell believes in progress. 2 cells, 4 cells, isn't that progress? So, and by the way, I'm not saying that we are all in this dilemma. So please don't think I'm trying to, undermine your concern or your frustration or your listing or whatever. I really believe it's like this. I'm an alcoholic. So you're telling me, so my doc said, boss, you'll have to give this up here. Is he expect me to go back to that? How can I go back to that? My body is used to. How does my body care? So the answer will be, my body will collapse, my liver will collapse. So if we cannot do anything, sure. You cause a extinction, you cause everything, fine. But that is no reason for not thinking about it. That's no reason for saying that, hey, why do we do more of the science? Why do we believe that this is a better material? After all the environmental chaos, we are talking about graphene, the new miracle, which is 1 atom thick, but a bullet cannot go through. Are you mad? Do you know what will happen if graphene starts going into the organic world? So, but you see, we'll call that progress. Progress is a word we have defined. The universe has not defined it. Reality does not define it. So we have to fall in sync with reality, mind. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you so much for.
But thanks for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's relentless and unending. And I know that Mansoor has left us all with a lot of things to grapple with, to question ourselves, to maybe change our way of thinking, or if I may correct myself, look at perceiving things in a more realistic manner. And realistic not the way which will denounce development or progress or whatever, but get us to the right perception. Sorry, I have to end the session. I'm actually really feeling bad that I have to say this, but time is